What if I told you that simply folding your fingers into a specific shape could actually physically rewire your brainwaves?
I mean, it sounds a little out there at first, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Or, what if just humming a particular frequency could signal your immune system to start repairing cellular damage?
Which is wild to even think about.
Right. But today, we are completely stripping all the mysticism, the incense, the superstition out of Tibetan Tantra. We're going to look directly at the hard biological science behind it.
Yeah.
Because, well, when you strip away the religious context, you're left with this surprisingly sophisticated technology for human biology.
Yeah, it completely reframes how we look at these ancient practices. We're examining this not as some belief system to be blindly followed, but as a biological framework, like a mechanical set of tools designed to basically hack the human nervous system.
I have to admit, when I first saw the phrase Tantric Engineering, I thought it was an oxymoron. Because, Tantra is ancient spirituality, and engineering is hard math and science. How do these sources actually bridge that massive gap?
Well, they bridge it through physics.
Yeah.
Specifically, acoustics and neurology. The whole mission of those sources is to map out the really profound, measurable connection between sound frequencies, your brain waves, and bodily vibration.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, they explain the neurological mechanics of resonance, like how a sound outside of you literally forces a physical change inside of you.
Which is incredibly relevant for you listening right now, because the ultimate goal of today's deep dive is to give you a practical, everyday guide to using these techniques. Specifically, those hand gestures called mudras, right? To balance your energy.
Exactly, things you can use anywhere.
Yeah, you can literally use these at your desk or in traffic. Okay, let's unpack this. I want to kick us off with a quote from our sources, spoken by Nikola Tesla, of all people. He said, "To understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration."
And that quote really acts as the absolute bedrock for this entire discussion. The foundational concept presented in our sources is that nothing is truly solid.
Right.
I mean, everything in the universe, from a speck of dust floating in your living room to an entire galaxy, is vibrating. Everything possesses its own unique, measurable frequency.
And the critical takeaway there is that when a frequency changes, the physical structure of matter is actually forced to change along with it.
Precisely.
The sources gave this incredible visual example of this in action using the science of cymatics, which, if you haven't seen it, is mind-blowing. If you take a metal plate, cover it in a totally random, chaotic layer of sand, and then play a specific sound frequency through that plate.
The sand doesn't just vibrate randomly.
No, it suddenly, violently self-organizes into perfectly symmetrical, beautiful, sacred geometric patterns.
It is so visually striking to watch. You have these chaotic, inanimate particles that are forced into perfect architectural order purely by the introduction of sound.
It's just sound.
Just sound. And this is where the sources make their central argument. They take this exact acoustic principle, sound, creating physical order, and apply it directly to the human body.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, they propose a model where the human body literally operates as a precision musical instrument.
Wait, let me see if I can break down their anatomical map, because I found this part fascinating. So this model, your lungs are the power source, right? They provide the wind, or what did the text call prana, driving the vital energy. Then you have your vocal cords, which act as the acoustic transmitters.
The strings of the instrument.
Exactly, generating the physical vibration. And finally, you have the mind, functioning as the central processing unit, the artist, who actually directs the intention of the music.
It really maps anatomy to acoustic physics perfectly. And to achieve what the texts call cosmic resonance, all three of those components, the breath, the voice, and the mind, they have to be perfectly calibrated.
But hold on, if we're all walking around as these precision instruments supposedly capable of sacred geometry, does that mean most of us are essentially walking around completely out of tune?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, let's be real, my day-to-day life feels a lot more like the chaotic sand than the perfect geometric pattern.
Yeah, you and everyone else. If we look at the data in the Tantric Engineering document, the baseline for most people is highly chaotic. The sources define our modern default state of stress, anxiety, and constant distraction as an unregulated state. If you plotted this state on a neurological graph, it represents really high entropy.
Like system incoherence.
Exactly. The waveforms of our biorhythms and our brain waves are just erratic with highly unstable amplitude variation.
So it literally looks like static noise on a monitor.
Pure internal noise. The nervous system is just firing randomly. So Tantra, in the scientific framework, is not a religion. It's an applied technology designed specifically to tune those discordant, chaotic frequencies of the human system back to a rhythmic, harmonic baseline.
Okay, so if my internal instrument is playing static, I need a tuning fork to get back to harmony. And that brings us to the concept of mantras, or, speech.
Right.
Now, usually when people hear the word mantra, they picture religious chanting in a temple somewhere. But the sources completely reframe mantras as acoustic keys.
Acoustic keys, I love that term.
Me too. They're described as primordial sound structures containing very specific frequencies.
Yeah, think of it like a physical lock and key. To activate a biological tool, you need the correct input. So let's analyze the most famous acoustic key, right? The sound OM.
A classic one.
The classic. It's widely considered an origin frequency. When you pronounce OM correctly, the vibration doesn't just stay in your throat. It physically originates deep in the belly, travels up through the chest cavity, and reverberates directly inside the skull.
Yeah, you can actually feel it physically shaking your chest and your sinus cavities if you project it properly.
You really can.
But what I really want to know is the why. Like, what is that physical shaking actually doing to our biology? Why does making my skull vibrate actually matter?
Well, the neurobiological translation is the core of this entire phenomenon. In acoustic lab tests, when the frequency of OM is sustained, it physically forces the brain to shift its state through a process of resonance.
Okay.
Normally, when we're stressed, anxious, or, dealing with a deadline, our brains are producing erratic, high-frequency beta waves.
Which perfectly matches that high-entropy, chaotic sand state we talked about earlier.
Precisely. So the sustained acoustic vibration of OM acts as an overpowering frequency. It physically disrupts those chaotic beta waves and pulls the brain's rhythm down into smooth, rolling alpha and theta waves.
Oh, wow. And alpha and theta waves are the frequencies our brains naturally produce during deep relaxation, or like light sleep and deep meditation.
They are. The texts describe this specific brainwave state as a healing resonance.
Healing resonance?
Yeah, by using this acoustic key, you are literally forcing your brain into a state where it signals the parasympathetic nervous system to drop its defenses. Only in that state can the body actually begin repairing its own cellular damage.
See, that is the hard science I was looking for. It's not magic. It's just acoustic physics applied directly to neurology. Sound forces entrainment, which alters brainwaves, which alters cellular function.
Exactly.
And this methodology goes even deeper when the sources decode what they call the ultimate tantric mantra. It's the 6-syllable phrase, Om Padme Hum.
Right, the big one.
Now, linguistically, that translates roughly to the jewel is in the lotus. But the sources explicitly state the meaning of the words isn't the point at all. It's about the vibrational algorithm.
Right, the power does not reside in the linguistic translation. It resides in the precise acoustic frequency of each sequential syllable.
Okay.
The texts describe this specific mantra as a 6-part phonetic algorithm. It's deliberately designed to systematically target and shut down the 6 roots of psychological suffering.
So it's essentially like inputting a specific cheat code into a computer to force quit all those hidden background apps that are secretly draining your system's battery.
That is a perfect analogy.
I'll be honest though, I'm still a bit skeptical of this part. How can a sound target a specific emotion? Let's walk through the algorithm so I can wrap my head around the mechanics.
Sure, we can break it down syllable by syllable, because each sound generates a frequency that targets a very specific psychological barrier.
Okay, let's hear it.
First, you have OM, which is visually associated with the color white. Its frequency is designed to purify pride and ego.
All right, pride and ego.
Then you have MA, associated with green, which acts to douse the fires of jealousy and envy.
Okay.
Third is NI, which is yellow, designed to neutralize blind desire and unchecked passion.
So just looking at that first half OM, MA, NI, the acoustic code is focused entirely on shutting down our outward grasping emotions, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like the ego wanting to be better than others, the jealousy of what others have, the blind desire to just consume. It's basically lowering the volume on the ego. What about the second half?
Well, the second half targets deeper, more stagnant internal blockages. So we move to PAD, associated with blue. This frequency clears out ignorance, sluggishness, and mental stagnation.
Interesting.
Next is ME, colored red, which soothes endless greed and that hollow feeling of a hunger that can never really be satisfied.
We all know that feeling.
We do. And finally, HM, which is black. HM is a heavy, shattering bass frequency designed to break apart deep-seated hatred and hostility.
Wow, it really is a full-spectrum psychological sweep, using sequential sound vibrations to literally shake loose different cognitive emotional blockages. blockages.
Precisely.
But here is the problem I keep bumping into. Going back to the idea of a bioelectric machine, if sound is the acoustic key that generates this resonant energy, how do we physically harness it? Because if I just hum a mantra, doesn't that energy just dissipate into the air? How do we lock it into the body?
And that is the crucial missing link for most people. And it's exactly where we move from the acoustic interface to the physical interface, Mudras.
Okay.
Or, as the Tantric Engineering text brilliantly defines it, biological circuitry.
So we are talking about hand gestures now.
Well, gestures is almost too passive a word. In this framework, your hands are not merely bone, muscle, and skin used for grabbing things. They are extremely complex biological circuit boards.
Circuit boards.
Yeah, every time you connect different fingers together, you are acting as a biological switch. You're closing specific bioelectric circuits within your own nervous system.
I need to push back on this a bit to really understand the biology here. The sources use terms like biological circuitry and claim that folding my fingers routes signals toward the pineal gland to balance the left and right hemispheres.
Right.
That sounds amazing, but how does folding my pinky finger jump all the way up my arm to affect a gland in the dead center of my brain? Are we talking about nerve meridians, fascia? Like, what is the actual mechanism?
It's actually a combination of dense nerve endings and the somatosensory cortex in the brain.
Okay.
Your fingertips contain some of the highest concentrations of nerve endings in your entire body. So when you press specific fingers together, you are creating a closed sensory loop.
Oh, a loop.
Exactly. Those nerve endings fire signals up the neural conduits of your arm straight into the brain.
Yeah.
Because the hands have such a massive representation in the brain's sensory mapping, specific finger combinations create distinct targeted bioelectric feedback loops.
That the brain then has to process.
Right, and processing that feedback is what can influence hormonal centers like the pineal gland and balance those hemispheres.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It's about sensory feedback loops. And this ties perfectly into one of the coolest parts of the Tantric Engineering source. They mapped out the hand like an elemental mixing board.
Yes, the elemental map.
Let me run through this map because it completely changes how you look at your own hands. So your thumb represents space. It's the foundation, the container of all things.
You're right.
Your index finger is wind. It represents movement, the flow of vital energy and breath. The middle finger is fire. That's transformation, burning, processing. The ring finger represents water. This is cohesion, emotional flow, and connection. And finally, your pinky is earth. It stands for physical structure, grounding, and stability.
And by using that elemental map, you realize that when you combine these fingers, you're literally mixing these elements.
You're mixing signals.
Yes,
Fun.
you are intentionally combining different sensory signals to send a very specific command to your nervous system.
Okay, let's make this incredibly practical for you listening right now. Because whether you are prepping for a massive high-stakes meeting or you're just exhausted and trying to decompress after a long day, you have this biological circuit board attached to your wrists at this exact moment.
You do.
So let's walk through some of the specific mudra programs from the text. How do I actually use this?
Well, let's start with the foundational one, the focus protocol. If you take your thumb, which represents space, and touch it to the tip of your index finger, which represents wind, you are uniting the container with movement.
Right, it's the classic meditation pose you see everywhere, like the OK sign.
Yeah, exactly. But functionally, this specific closed circuit is used to sharpen the mind.
Really?
Yeah, the feedback loop enhances focus, increases concentration, and actually optimizes the brain for the absorption of knowledge.
That is perfect for deep work, studying, or reading. What about a situation where you are feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or just panicked?
For that, the texts provide Program 1, Abhaya, which translates to fearlessness.
Fearlessness.
The configuration is very simple. You raise your right hand to chest level with the palm facing outward and your fingers pointing up.
It looks exactly like a classic stop gesture.
And that is biologically what it does. Functionally, this acts as an energetic shield.
Okay.
When you hold your hand in this tense, outward-facing position, it sends a signal through your nervous system to stand down. It calms the autonomic fight-or-flight response while psychologically projecting a barrier against incoming anxiety. You are literally physically embodying a boundary.
I love that. The idea of physically embodying a psychological boundary, that's so powerful.
It really is.
There's another protocol here that has a fascinating historical context too. Program 2, Bhumasparsha, or earth touching.
Ah, yes. This is a highly specific mudra. It's the gesture famously used by the Buddha right before his moment of enlightenment.
Right.
At the exact time, his mind was under extreme psychological attack from doubt and fear. The configuration is simply touching the fingertips of your right hand down to the ground or the floor.
Which goes right back to those highly concentrated nerve endings we discussed.
Exactly. Since the fingertips are packed with sensory receptors, pressing them firmly into a solid, unmoving surface is the ultimate grounding protocol.
Makes total sense.
You are literally inviting the physical stability of the earth into your nervous system to anchor your chaotic mind during extreme emotional trials.
It's essentially like driving a lightning rod into the ground to safely discharge a massive strike of erratic electricity.
That's a great way to put it.
It gives the anxiety somewhere to go. And then the last master program here is dhyana, or meditation.
Right. For dhyana, you sit with your hands stacked in your lap, palms facing up, with the tips of your two thumbs gently touching each other, forming a triangle.
Okay.
Think about what this does mechanically. It creates a completely closed circular loop with your arms and hands. It prevents the outward leakage of your vital energy and forces your nervous system into a state of absolute contained internal stillness.
So we have the body locked in with mudras, closing the biological circuits. We have the voice tuned with mantras, using acoustic resonance to shift the brainwaves. But to achieve that total state of cosmic resonance, the sources say we need the third and final interface.
Yes.
The mind, the artist who is actually playing the instrument.
The texts refer to this final interface as the mental construct, and its function is reality programming through visualization.
Now, visualization is a word that gets thrown around a lot in self-help circles, right?
Oh, constantly.
Usually it just means daydreaming about getting a new car or a promotion, very surface level.
Yeah.
But the sources are talking about something much more intense here, right?
Significantly more intense. This entire concept hinges on a fascinating neurological quirk. What happens when the brain can no longer tell the difference between a real external event and an internally generated image? The sources explain that when the brain holds a visualization with absolute, unwavering conviction, it ceases to be a daydream. It becomes reality construction. The brain actually commands the immune system to physically respond to the imagined state.
Wow.
It triggers the production of endogenous healing chemicals.
Meaning chemicals your body produces naturally from within its own pharmacy.
Yeah.
Based entirely on a mental image.
Yes. Modern science recognizes this phenomenon as the highest form of neuroplasticity, or basically highly weaponized positive placebo effect. Your absolute belief in the visualization literally alters your cellular biology.
And the specific visualizations the texts prescribe are wild. They use these incredibly vivid archetypes, specific deities with distinct colors and weapons. But the sources make a massive distinction here that we have to clarify.
Very important distinction, yes.
You are not visualizing external gods up in the sky waiting to be worshipped.
No, that is the most common misconception, and it's what leads straight back into the superstition we're avoiding today. These figures are archetypal blueprints. They represent internal psychological potentials that already exist dormant inside of you, just waiting to be awakened. They act as visual triggers for your nervous system.
Let's look at how these triggers work because the imagery is so striking. First, there's the medicine Buddha. You visualize a figure made of luminous lapis lazuli blue light.
Right.
The trigger here is seeing this figure radiating blue light that physically flushes out black disease cells from your body. The biological function isn't worship, it is deep cellular restoration.
Exactly. Then you have an archetype like Green Tara. She's visualized as emerald green, and her posture is highly specific. She has her right leg stepping down, leaning forward, ready to immediately spring into action.
Like she's sitting on the edge of her seat about to jump up and intervene.
Her function is swift rescue. Visualizing her posture triggers the psychological mechanism needed to banish immediate, paralyzing fear and overcome sudden obstacles.
So you aren't asking a goddess for help.
No, you are awakening your own internal capacity for swift, decisive action.
And then there is Vajrapani, who is an incredibly intense visual. He is visualized as fiery blue-black with a wrathful, terrifying expression, wielding a weapon, a thunderbolt.
Yeah, but you have to understand the nature of his wrath. It isn't petty human anger. It is fierce, unyielding resolve.
Unyielding resolve.
You visualize Vajrapani when you need to trigger the immense psychological force necessary to completely annihilate your own internal toxicity, deep-seated addictions, or extreme negative energy. He is the archetype of absolute, impenetrable boundaries.
So when you combine all three of these technologies, the physical mudra closing the circuit, the acoustic mantra shifting the brainwaves, and the mental visualization triggering neuroplasticity. The sources call this Deity yoga.
Right.
It is the absolute zenith of tantric technology.
It represents total biological and psychological synchronization. When your body, speech, and mind are perfectly aligned on a single focused frequency, the sources state that your fearful, isolated, separate ego actually dissolves.
Because it just can't survive that level of coherence.
Exactly. You stop being a fragmented individual and become the living embodiment of that limitless wisdom.
And what's amazing is that when that internal shift happens, your external perception of reality transforms with it. The chaos you normally see out in the world organizes itself into a mandala.
Which people often think of as just a pretty geometric sand painting.
Right.
But in this framework, it is the exact architectural blueprint of a fully awakened, perfectly symmetrical universe. When your internal frequencies shift from high entropy chaos to perfect order, the world outside you naturally mirrors that order.
And right at the center of this mandala is a concept called Vajrapani, the luminous mind. It represents the ultimate realization that there's absolutely no separation between you and the universe.
None at all.
There's no separation between self and other. The observer and the observed are the exact same vibration.
Which brings us to the ultimate purpose of digesting all this data, really. The sources are very clear on what this all means for our practical daily lives.
Yeah.
True Tantra, true applied biological alchemy, isn't about escaping into a cave or hiding in a monastery to meditate in silence all day.
No, the goal isn't to run away from the world. The goal is to bring that highly tuned, illuminated state directly into the friction of your mundane, chaotic Tuesday morning commute.
Exactly. It is about shifting from your default state of chaos to a tantric state of order in real time, no matter what is happening around you.
Yes.
Instead of complaining about a problem, which is just projecting chaotic acoustic energy, your speech becomes a mantra. You choose to speak words of encouragement, clarity, and truth.
Instead of grasping greedily for resources or lashing out in traffic, your physical action becomes a mudra. You naturally extend a hand to lift the burdens of others, physically embodying that stability and fearlessness.
And instead of looking around and seeing a world full of strangers, annoyances, or enemies, your mind uses a visualization to see every single person you interact with as a potential future Buddha.
Yeah.
You literally train your nervous system to only see the awakened potential in them.
It is an incredibly powerful way to completely re-engineer how you interact with reality on a biological level. We've just spent this time seeing how specific, intentional sound frequencies and physical gestures can actually restructure our brainwaves into sacred geometry and healing resonance.
It's all about the data you input into your system.
It always comes down to what signals you are choosing to input into your biological instrument.
Always.
Which leaves us with this final thought for you to chew on. If it is mathematically and biologically true that specific intentional frequencies can harmonize our biology and heal ourselves, you have to ask yourself, what is the constant unregulated frequency of our modern digital lives doing to us?
Oh, that is the question.
The endless scrolling, the notification pings, the 24-hour outrage news cycle. What is that chaotic digital frequency doing to the sand of your own internal biology right now?
It is arguably the most vital question we can ask about our modern environment.
I highly encourage you to test this ancient technology out today. Just try one mudra. When you are reading your next stressful email, press your thumb and index finger together, see if you can feel that biological circuitry close, and watch what happens to your focus. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.